Hey everyone, welcome to a behind the scenes video. In a previous video, which is linked in the video description, I did a presentation on this project, which is advanced virtual reality surgical planning. And a lot of people, when I was building the presentation and also after watching the presentation, they were like, how does that system work in Neos? And I think they're referring to two things, which is, first of all, the actual surgical system. So there'll be a video on that one soon. And then the second one is people were actually interested in how the presentation worked as well. So this is a behind the scenes of that presentation. For those who haven't watched that video, it was a 3-minute presentation and it was very difficult to get all the information across, but Aeneas helped tremendously with that. So I'm going to show you around the world, talk about how it works, and then also I have a couple of people that want this world to be released so other people can make presentations using that. So if you want that, let me know, put it in the video description, the comments, and I'll work on that. So do let me know. Anyway. Hopping over to Smooth POV, you'll see what I see inside this presentation. So this is a unique view of everything that was behind that camera. So the first thing to note is that we used camera anchors. So this is green thing here is a camera anchor, and this is that one up there. Camera anchors let you anchor the camera to a particular location. They're very useful for setting up static shots. So I always had the camera anchor there, and it meant I knew where in the world people were looking when we were making slides and stuff. You can also see my note view. This has notes, and I basically read these verbatim when it comes to a 3-minute presentation. You have no room to basically waffle or have any sort of dissonance inside your head about what you're saying, like you can hear now every time I say we started on this slide just simply because people liked these animations, but I will hop back to the original slide. You can just see next previous buttons here. So hop all the way back down to 0. This is where we started. You can see all the slides lined up into infinity here, and I'll just go through a couple of things. So the system looks really cool, but it's basically just a slot offset, right? So each slide is 20 Neos units away from each other, and they're parented up to a regular hierarchy, which I can show you by using one of these cubes. So these are all just parented to this huge hierarchy, and then each slide is then parented 20 units away. So that'll be 40, that'll be 60, 80, etc. across there. That's done by using just a tiny piece of logic which looks at the index of child and then multiplies that by 20. So there we go. That is how that's done. That also names the slot. I like setting up systems where the slots name themselves because it makes it really easy to sort of plan and stuff. You'll see how that works when we talk about how the slides work. So from this perspective, away from it, if I look this way whilst I change slides, you'll see everything's just sliding left to right as we go forwards. So everything is just parented to each slide. So for example, this slide here has everything parented to it that it needs. So it's got this globe, which is meant to show how I'm over in Washington and I'm transmitting my presentation down to Sydney, which is roughly here. It's not precise because it's a bigger ball. This wire here is just from Vigilabo's public folder. They've got a Bezier Curve tool, and so I just used that to make a curve, turned off the control points, and then I slapped this material on it. This material is from Neos Essentials. It's the animated material that is a sort of cyan ball with a glowy thing. I might as well just go fetch it for you, actually, so you guys can see it. Again, this is going to be like super detailed. If you're not up for it, that's great. But people really wanted to see it, so I'm happy to provide it. Yeah, it's just this one, but I removed the metallic from it. I believe there was a UV swap halfway through. You can see the join just about there. So I might have to make two materials. One's going up, one's going down, and then it all synced up across there. Very simple thing. And then that sphere globe came from Neos Essentials as well. You'll notice when we change slides that the cubes come with me. That is because a couple of the slides I didn't want these cubes, so I had to put them on every slide. I would probably do that differently in the future. I added the red cubes because I don't know. Whenever I watch TED Talks, and I do watch a lot of TED Talks, there's always red cubes around. And I'm like, let's have red cubes. Additionally, these red runways, as I call them, those are the approximate locations of where the camera is, and they were useful for framing. That's also why the red cubes were there. They also helped frame stuff. I knew that if I was on the red, I most certainly wouldn't have anything on display on the camera here. So there, and there. There was no, there's no data that can be shown on the camera if it's on those red lines. You can see that if I just go to the camera anchor for a moment. So now we're back how you would be in a presentation mode here. And you can see here I am in camera, and then the moment I'm on these red lines, I'm not on camera. So that was just there. It's a common thing that you do in stage things as well. You kind of sort of identify the areas where people shouldn't step. Usually it's a lot less violent than this, but hey, it's VR, so we can make really big, bold things and be easy about it. There's also a stopwatch at the front here. That's just so I knew that I wasn't talking too fast or too slow. It used as a sort of a timer beat to make sure that I knew I was going through there. I did also briefly consider having a metronome track going off. I was watching, previous to this, random anecdote here, I was watching a couple of videos from stage singers or stage musicians, and they always have those in-ear monitors, and I'm like, what's on those tracks? And so this video actually sort of played the audio, and she talked it through. I can't remember who it was, won't be able to find a link, so I apologize for that, but she talked through how there was a constant metronome going off, which enabled her to sing on time, and that someone on that track would then cue them into the chorus or the verse, so that they knew when everything would hit at the same time. For those people who are running those in-ear monitoring tracks at stage events and things like that, thank you so much. There must be so much effort that goes into just keeping everything on time there and speaking to your performers, so thank you for doing that. That was my version of it, though. Moving on, this next slide, nothing fancy here. We just have some models. Some of these are actually like the surgical stuff being processed, and then this skull is just a 3D artist's representation of a skeleton. It's not accurate. It does look a little bit alien if you know anatomy well, but it does for the good reason of like we want to avoid having patient data wherever we can. I can't release any worlds, for example, that have patient data, so I can't release this world because this leg and that jaw is technically patient data, so I can't release that. Moving onwards, this slide, this MRI is just a model which a colleague, Hamish, SHFR, if you know them, found, and then I T-posed one of the Ready Player Me avatars from the Neos Essentials folder, and then I flattened the arms down, and you get a lying flat. And then this is just animated in and out with a ping pong driver. These question marks are moving, a subtle effect there. That is just a wobbler that's designed on position space rather than rotation or scale space. That just like what I was trying to do here is really convince people that they weren't watching a static video. We've had lots of feedback in the past that VR content is pre-recorded, and while the video you watched was pre-recorded, the live presentation was not. It was 100% live over a Zoom link, so that's cool. This one I'm most proud of because of everything that happened here to get this working. A few people helped. I'll speak to them when we get to them. First of all, these avatars are part of the Rocketbox collection. I will link that in the video description, but you can also find inside my public folder, you can find Rocketbox avatars as I import them. The Rocketbox collection is fantastic. All of the avatars are MIT licensed, which basically means you can use them for whatever. And they recently added blend shape support to all of them. And they've added, in my view, too many blend shapes because they've added like all of the IR kit blend shapes and a couple of other face tracker blend shapes. So the blend shape list is something in the range of sort of 80, but it means that these are really dynamic avatars right now. They have all sorts of professions, not just medical. There's business, there's construction, there's even like ambulance workers, fire brigade, a few children as well, and some animals. I haven't really seen if the animals have face tracking blend shapes, but that's cool. So this visual here was meant to show how the steps of this planning of a surgery just go round and round and round and round and round because different people need to do different parts of it and they all need to be up in sync. And sometimes that's difficult. It goes through emails, meetings, and just keeps going. This is, I believe, just an offset spinner. The particle trail is just a regular particle I found in Neos Essentials that trails them. Up here we have a calendar. I'm super proud of this one. This used a calendar asset from Sketchfab, which I then edited out in Blender to make the individual sheets duplicatable, and then there's a piece of text on them. These guys use a value gradient driver to animate up and to the left. That just specifies the sort of curve of the animation, and then the animation is driven using a cool system where I look at their index of child and I give them a delay based on that. So the first calendar date will go first, and then the second one will be a little bit after that, third one a little after that, fourth one a little after that, and that's why they flow up like that. Huge thanks to Beagle, who helped through my insanity here. We also used a object grid aligner to get a Z translation back this way. I don't remember why we didn't use an axis aligner, but there we go. That was really cool to finally get working. It has a lot of effort to do so. Over here, again, this is just Rocketbox avatars. These are all posed, by the way, using the statue creator that was made by Orange and a bunch of other people. I forget the credits, but it was one of the MMC winners. So it's been used everywhere for like, statues of people's avatars and stuff like that. But I realized it was also good for static posing. So I just did a lot of static posing here. You can turn off the base plate and then just position them round and round, and there you go. So you can see here, this pointing was just me pointing whilst I was waiting for the statue camera to go off. This desk is just from Sketchfab, nothing crazy, although the links to all the assets will be in the video description. Up here, we have another value gradient driver on this visual, which is here, and it just specifies, hey, go to all these points. So it's like down, left a bit, actually right a bit, right a bit, right a bit, up, and then it just goes between. The value gradient driver is good for this sort of thing. You can see the pattern here, and then a panner on that. It's really simple. This visual is meant to convey that each of the steps need to be done in succession, and if there's a mistake somewhere along the line, some of these steps have to be repeated, and that actually happens, right? So if they get all the way to the end here, and let's say, for example, the dental implants were hampering or butting up against some of the screws for the plate, that maybe have to go back around and redesign the dental implants, or vice versa. And it keeps going round and round and round. And this is meant to show like, hey, these are the problems that we're solving. This next slide is a bit strange because we can do this in Neos. This is actually the entire surgical system just ported into this world. The full stuff is behind. You'll see there's lots more control panels and stuff like that. So I just brought the stuff forward that I needed. This slide also moves backwards so that there's more room. I wanted to sort of open up the space a little bit and allow there to be those two actors there. These actors use guheheP's motion capture tool. That is a great tool. People always say, like, how do you do motion capture, stuff like that. There's a variety of tools for this type of motion capture, which is like in Neos to in Neos. guheheP's tool is the best one right now. I know that if you want to take it out to Blender or do really precise motion capture, there's also a business lawyer tool. You can actually see under the map is the motion capture tool here. You can technically make these standalone. There's an install to model button, but I had difficulty making that work once I reloaded the world. I do believe the Russio's team, where they made the unofficial tutorial where there was a Nexavali model waving and introducing and reading you topics, that also used this system. It was great. You do need to check here the position checkbox if you want to get the movement going, which is what I've got. You'll see here. This Ready Player Me avatar, by the way, I affectionately call Ed Sheeran. I know they don't look anything like Ed Sheeran, but like that's just what I do for the memes. So yeah, all of this movement is being recorded using that motion capture tool and then played back. In fact, these two avatars are me in just two different avatars recorded and loaded into the world. I also managed sure to get these people bending down at various points and also engaging with each other and waving. This one even waves to me. That was just showing, like, hey, you can view anything here. I mean, if you're watching this, you might be familiar with Neos. You just joystick around, right? We don't need to worry about our visual position. But those who are new to VR might actually crouch down and do stuff like that. So I wanted to show that was a possibility. It's also just like, again, it's dynamic and it needs to just be shown as dynamic. But this thing, it works. It's here. It's fully functional. It's just frozen there. If I had more time, I might be able to like interact with these actors, but I didn't want to like push it. So that's that slide, and the other slides are really basic. This one, we put the person that was getting the scan, the Ready Player Me avatar, I put it back here again, and I tweaked their blend shape so that they were smiling. The inkling here is that, like, hey, maybe now they've had jaw surgery and they're smiling, they're living their life again. But it was there as a skeleton originally, and now it's just a person. Also, an Easter egg left over is there's a tiny skeleton just here. A few people actually noticed that and sent me the screenshot, and I appreciate that. The next two slides were just backup. This was team. I blanked this one up. I'm hugely thankful for the team, but I'm not prepared to dox myself, so I've removed this slide from this video. I blurred it in the original presentation as well. And then a thank you. So that's the whole system. I know that's kind of a long video, but people were interested in it behind the scenes. Like I said, this system is super dynamic. So hey, if I wanted to make another slide, let's say slide 9, I can just go ahead and duplicate this, and now we've got another slide. It's the exact same contents, but let's say I wanted to put a different model into there, let's say a cat or whatever, because cat is the one I always do as a test. So animals, cat. Let's say I wanted this big cat to be in the middle of my slide for whatever reason. All I have to do is parent that cat to slide 9, and now it's part of slide 9. So if we fly back over here and we go all the way back to the start of the presentation, down there in the distance, and just about see it, is the cat. And we can go across here, conclusion, team, thank you, cat. Works perfectly. Another people said lighting, and yes, I want to do a lighting tutorial on this, actually. For those who are aware of lighting, they probably know it better than me and use better terminology, etc. But generically speaking, for a presentation, and for most worlds, you don't want to use the skybox lighting, and you don't want to use the sun lighting. We do still have a little bit of skybox lighting here. That's just because I wanted there to be that not to be completely dark. But the sun is very, very low intensity, and the lights are actually generated by point lights. We have 3 point lights to sort of mirror the sort of 3 light system, but I did a really bad job at it. So we've got a light above each cube stack here. We've got a light above this central spot here, which is where I present from. And I think there's a third light just towards the front here. We don't need to light the slides because they're unlit. But I guess the summary from that one is, like, why do the slides look better? It's because I'm not using the sun. I'm using individual lights to light it how I want to. So I do encourage you to do that. Basically, if your map isn't outside, then you shouldn't be using the main directional light. The directional light is a sun, and it applies everywhere because it's a sun. If you're indoors, think about where your lights are coming from. If it's an apartment, it should come from the light fixtures. If it's a bigger room, maybe it comes through some windows, and maybe you can use the sun, but do think about lighting. It does the single greatest thing to make a world look better. You need to see notes here, which is unlock scale. That's because I did a little bit of scale in the middle of the thing, and then set user in the animator. And that's because these animators have a button underneath here where you have to set user before they'll work on this panel. And so these are just reminders. The spawn point is here. So I spawned in the world on the day I had to do that presentation, and that was right in front of me, so I knew I had to do them. But yeah, there you go. That's how that all worked. I hope you enjoyed a behind-the-scenes look at this. There will certainly be a video on the surgical system at some point in the future. I'm still working on some tweaks for it, and the partnership we've got going with Lifehouse, we're still working on fixing those up. So I'm not talking about it till it's perfect. There's still a few issues there, but it is fully featured and entirely inside of Neos. So there you go. I will speak to you later. I hope you enjoyed it.